Thank you for tuning in to Uncommon Women, a podcast that provides a platform for women of all walks of life to share their upbringings, life lessons learned, experiences, and journeys to come. Uncommon Women speaks on topics that can relate to all women. We share, we listen, we laugh, we cry, and we empower each other to be the best uncommon woman that they can be. Ultimately, we are cultivating a global movement of women supporting women. Women supporting entrepreneurship, relationships, self-love, and so much more. We inspire each other to make an impact on this world for the better. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Uncommon Women. Now, finally, grab a seat, get comfortable, and hear from your wonderful hosts, Shanira and Jenny Lee. Hi, kings and queens. Thank you so much for tuning in to Uncommon Women. I'm Shanira.
And I'm Jenny Lee.
And today we are kicking off season 5. I'm super excited. I missed you guys. Happy New Year to those that are watching in. And I hope everyone's crushing their goals and dreams for the new year. Without further ado, we have an amazing guest speaker that's going to come on and share her story in regards to, how she struggled with suicide. Her name is Kezia. She's a 19-year-old high school graduate who struggled with suicide, and she's written several published posts, and she also is a mentor for other people that's going through the struggle of being in a dark circle and just being a peer for those that may have been experiencing some depression and feeling like they wanted to commit suicide. So thank you so much, Kezia, for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So before we get into your testimony today, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you like to do?
So other than working, I like to paint a lot. It's a really good outlet for me. It's a good stress reliever. And I'm very family based, so I spend a lot of time with my family. I've been spending a lot of time with my niece and nephew, or even a family friend. Her name's Kenya and her kids.
Shout out to Kenya.
Yeah. Shout out.
That's good. So you enjoy painting. Is that like your therapeutical time to just relax and just set the mood for you to be peaceful?
Yeah, that and just journaling and stuff and being able to write out how I feel and being able it helps the process of processing, if that makes sense.
I understand, girl. I understand. So we're going to go ahead and get into your story and your testimony. I know you've done other podcasts and shared your story. So we just want you to just open up and just share, what you went through in your life and, how you overcame wanting to commit suicide.
So for me, it started at a really young age. Even before I knew what depression or what suicide was. I was abused. It started when I was about 6 years old and lasted until I was about 13 or 14. I actually wrote something.
Okay.
If I can read it.
Yeah.
I wrote it freshman year in high school, and it was when I had my attempt. And it's let me find it. It's just the basis of I guess my story.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Whatever you feel comfortable with is fine.
Okay, So, I'm just going to start reading it. If you want to stop, you can. Okay, so she was 6 years old when it started. She felt erased because of his words and his hands. He made her invisible in the world of visibility. Made it her fault every time he used his hands. Made it her fault every time he used his vicious words. She was only 6 the first time he called her worthless. She hated when he took his pain and gave it to her instead. The thoughts too big for her little brain. 7 years old, it only got worse, coming home every day to the abuse. Hit after hit, just praying he'd be done soon. Too young to understand what depression was, but it soon became her best friend. She carried the thoughts with her everywhere she went. No friends, no one to talk to. She was alone, and the only thing she had was the abuse and the depression. 8 years old, she washed away as she grew. She didn't know what to think anymore, left to figure out who she was and why she was even here. No memory of when it was okay, no memory of the love she was once given. Age 9, she only cared for one thing at this point, and that was her little brother Sam. She took care of him, and he gave her the best company he could give. Being 8 months apart, they were pretty close. The abuse had spread to him, and she tried to help him stand strong. Age 10, it continued, coming home into her room and holding her neck to the wall, wishing he would just end it. All she could remember was pain by the age 11, having to lie at school about the bruises and the scars. She became good at hiding how she felt. It was just another day for her. Putting on a mask was a daily routine to show people that she was okay when she really wasn't. Age 12, she was too tired to fight back anymore. She let him hit her. She let him put his hands around her neck and let him throw her around. She didn't care. She finally spoke up. Not for her, but because she simply didn't care anymore. Seventh grade was when she lost her abuser, her eraser, and she made it her fault. Age 13, the memories and the thoughts would leave. She grew up to the words he called her, the words she now called herself. She relieved her pain through the drugs she took and the alcohol she drank. They allowed her to forget, yet put a blade to her paper and tried to make something beautiful. The blood showed through the long sleeve she wore. They either didn't notice or didn't care. Nobody asked about it. Age 14, the thoughts about death increased. People treated her like she wasn't human, more like a freak. She believed them when they told her she didn't matter, when they told her that nobody cared about her. Being raised to feel worthless and being different didn't help. She decided that a bottle of pills would help. As the pills slid down her throat, she believed it was the end. November 7th, 2016, she laid on her bed and slowly began to fog. Rushed to the hospital, remembering the sound of sirens. Tears rolled down her face, and the only thing that she could manage to say was that she was sorry.
Wow. That's deep. So let's go back into your story. So was it just physical or was it sexual abuse between 7 and 12?
It was all mental, physical, emotional abuse. It wasn't anything sexual or anything like that.
Okay. But with you being abused, that made you feel, like you were worthless or, just
Yeah.
Doubting who you are as a human being. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
So just to take it back, the physical abuse the mental abuse is what caused you to feel like maybe he was right. Is that what you basically was going through up until July 2016, was it?
November
2016.
Yeah, so a lot of it was mostly his words. Like the physical, I feel like I started using as an outlet to make myself feel better about the mental. So I just kind of let him continuously do it. It was more so the mental that got to me, and like the fact that someone I cared so much about thought so little towards me was like the main thing that I felt like bothered me and really pushed me over the edge when it came to doing what I did.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So when the first time that this all started happening at the age of 6, what were you feeling at that moment? What were you really kind of going through at that moment when you're just like, is this even really happening to me?
Yeah, see, I feel like I wasn't old enough to really realize that it wasn't okay for him to be hitting me or talking to me the way that he was. So I just kind of thought like, oh, I'm in trouble, like this is normal.
Okay.
Okay.
Did he like do it? I mean, obviously he did it when no family members were around. So like he took advantage of that. So did he just do
Yeah,
it like, go ahead.
he was very open about it. He did it in front of family too. And he did it like the abuser did it to multiple people in my family. It wasn't necessarily just me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like trauma bonding, I guess.
Okay. That's understandable. Did you ever feel like you were alone and it would just been easier to just end things with your life?
100%. I feel like we all isolated ourselves because we didn't understand necessarily that we were all going through the same thing and we could have been supporting each other. So I really felt like I was drowning, and felt like I didn't have anybody, even though I knew like people were going through the same thing that I was in the same household. And I always thought like, I don't know why, but I always like put it in my head that everybody was just happier without me,
Mm-hmm.
because I would take myself out of like situations and I would hear them having a good time, or, they'd have like good moments without me. And it's like, well, maybe they'd have more good moments if I just wasn't here.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
I can imagine that as a child thinking those things, and you're a little girl, and you're trying to, like you said, you had a mask on and trying to be happy around everyone, and inside you were just dying.
Yeah.
So I can imagine like the more how mentally it was just like really messing with you at that point, because you wanted to take your life and you just felt like you were better off knowing that you really weren't, because your family did love you and want you there. So, and I think when you're young, you just don't comprehend that, because the mind is a powerful thing.
Yeah, and I feel like negativity stands out a
Mm-hmm.
lot more than the positive aspects of things. Like,
Yeah.
I know we've all had like our good moments and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
we're not a normal family, we're a really big family. So I just felt like attention was elsewhere. And I always felt like I was the kid that everybody forgot about.
Mm. And you said that you had to go to school and make up stories in regards to the bruises. Did you have any friends that you could actually talk to during this process, or were you like really alone?
So, school wise, I didn't really hang out with anybody. There was like one or two people throughout like elementary school, middle school that I was like close with, but I never felt like I could get close enough to someone to share that side of me. Um, because I always got told that it wasn't okay to talk about it. I always got told that like nobody would listen to me, nobody would believe me, type of thing.
Right.
Wow.
So I mostly hung out with my teachers, or I did like one or two things with a couple people who I was friends with in elementary school.
Okay. And before the big attempt, you said you were drinking and like trying other outlets to, fill the void. Is that correct?
Yeah.
How did you get exposed to that, or how did you go through that process?
I just kind of put myself in bad situations with bad people, people who were already drinking or smoking. So when they had offered it to me and they're like, oh, like it'll make you feel better, like obviously I'm going to try whatever I can to make myself
Yeah.
forget about all of the past trauma and everything that I went through.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's go back into, if you remember, the day that you actually tried it. How did that process go? How did someone find you, or what was going on the day that you actually tried to commit suicide?
So it was actually a 2-day process.
Okay.
The night before was when I started taking the pills. And I overall had like 7 bottles, and just like continuously started taking them throughout the night. Um, I remember because there are like bits and pieces that I don't remember,
Okay.
but in the beginning, I remember we were all having like a little family night, um, at home, and I remember sitting in the bathroom crying, and one of my sisters, Abigail, was sitting on the other side of the door talking to me. Um, and
Mm,
then she got up and left, and that was when I had made up my mind. I was like, everybody would just be so much happier without me, because like I feel like I'm making it a negative environment because of the way that I feel. Like I'm putting all this pressure on my family to make me feel better when they shouldn't have to do that. Like that's not fair. So I started looking at all the pills in our pill cabinet and reading the like damages that it could do to your body if you took too many, and all the ones that said like liver damage or may cause death or like heart attacks I started taking. And then I remember sitting on the couch and everybody was going to bed, and I just laid on the floor, and it took everything out of me to like even try to get up, because of how like dizzy I was, and I could just feel myself like slipping away and like starting to black out. And I remember like a little voice in the back of my head telling me to get up, like you need to get up, Kezia, like get up, go to bed, like you'll wake up tomorrow morning, like it'll be okay. So I got up and I went to bed, and then I woke up the next morning and I crawled into my mom's bed crying, telling her that I didn't feel good and that I wanted to stay home. So throughout the day, she went to work, and it was my sister's birthday. So I wrote her like a little note wishing her a happy birthday, telling her that I loved her. And then I finished the rest of the pills from the night before. And then everybody got home, and my mom's husband, up or now I guess they're married, he ended up calling my mom because I was shaking and crying, and he was like, there's something really wrong with Kez, like she needs to go to the hospital. So I remember my mom booking an appointment to urgent care, and we were waiting for the appointment to come, and I was laying on the couch with her, and I had my head on her lap, and then my sister came out and she called me into the room. So I went into the room with her, and she showed me all of the empty pill bottles, and she's like, if you don't tell mom, I will. So she ended up going to the urgent care with us, and they were going down each like possibility of what it could be, asking me all these questions. And I was having like really bad stomach issues. I was shaking really bad, like all of this stuff. And as you're going down the list, Gabby kept looking at mom, and as soon as they were like, well, I don't know what it could be, Gabby goes, Mom, can you please step out of the room? And then mom, it clicks for her, and she's like, oh, I know what's going on. And so we ended up telling the doctor, and I remember them telling me that I need to ride in an ambulance because of the situation. So I remember riding in the ambulance, and I was just crying the whole time. And I remember like laying in bed, and they were running all these tests on me, and my eyes were swollen. My mom's eyes were swollen. And like the only thing that I could like say to her that I felt like would make it at least semi better was that I was sorry.
Wow, that's deep. During that process, are you able to talk to your mom now? But what was she going through at that time?
Yeah, I'm able to talk to my mom. I've actually gone to her a few times about it recently. But like before everything, she used to ask me a lot if I was ever suicidal or depressed, because she worked in that kind of environment, just working with people who were depressed or suicidal. And I always lied to her and said no. So I always felt like communication wasn't the best on my end, because I was scared to tell my mom how I really felt, because I wasn't sure she would understand.
I mean, that I think that's kind of understandable, because even though she worked in the field, and you just felt like, okay, well, she works with these kind of people, but maybe she just doesn't understand me because I'm her kid.
Yeah.
So I can, yeah.
So can you share any signs from your peer groups of people that have experienced depression or may have had suicidal thoughts?
I feel like the biggest thing is self-isolation and not only convincing other people, but convincing yourself that you're okay. Um, People who tend to, with what I've seen, who feel like that, they don't communicate, they don't know how to communicate. And it's really hard to personalize with people because you're struggling, like, yourself to even find who you are as a person. So it's like people go quiet because of it. Like they just stop. Yeah, they stop talking.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like when people stop talking, that's when you kind of have to worry because it's like, are you like, why are you not talking? Like, are you good? Like, and it's not even just like one day, it's like a continuum of things. Like everybody talks.
Mm-hmm.
And once you stop talking, you kind of have to think about, well, why aren't they talking anymore?
That makes sense.
Where's their voice?
That makes sense. You said that you came from a family who, did a lot of family things, and most of the time you felt as though, everyone was happy or they would be happy without you. Is there anything that, Gabby or your mom or anyone could have did to maybe persuade you to go a different route, or is it just something that you went through from the abuse?
I don't necessarily think it was just the abuse. It's like a mix of things, like from school or from my peers, from family members, because the way that we bond is like we make fun of each other, we'll mess around, like we'll fight. And during like that time, it was really hard for me because of my self-esteem and because of how I felt towards myself for me to actually like go through and listen to like the jokes that they were making about me or anything like that. But I don't think necessarily they could have said or done anything to change my mind because to an extent, like once you have your mind made up, your mind is made up.
And I think
And
that's
once,
just go ahead,
yeah, sorry. Well, no, I was just gonna say once I like knew that I was gonna do it, I did it.
And I think when you get to that point where you want to end up taking your life, I think it's just like from the trauma, from like how long going it has been for so long, and obviously the negative thoughts or those come in there, and it's you get to that point where it's just like you said, you just made up your mind. You're like, well, I don't want to live anymore because I just feel like I don't deserve to be here anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's just like all the trauma throughout so many years, and it just finally you get to a point like this is enough.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And like you said, it's something that doesn't happen overnight. Do you have like mental flashbacks of what you went through that experience? Because you're 19 now. So this was what, 5 years ago?
Yeah,
4 years
5 or 6. I think,
okay.
yeah. I don't, yeah. Yeah, I actually get a lot of flashbacks from past trauma and stuff like that. And it wasn't even just that one abuser. Like I've been in abusive relationships. I've put myself in situations that aren't the best. So it's just like a cycle of things, a cycle that I feel like I'm never gonna get out of. But with like the start of things, 100%. Like I feel like I get flashbacks a lot because of it. I have trouble sleeping because all I have are nightmares. I used to have to sleep with my sisters at night because of it. So it kind of puts me in like this state of mind, like this numbness that I feel like I can't get out of when it gets really bad. And it's really hard for me not to think about doing it again or relapsing or things like that. But like it's become a thing where once I start feeling like that, I know the things that will get me out. So I put myself in those positive situations to help me be like, okay, well, this is why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, like they're not going to be okay if I leave. Like I need to be here for them. Like I need to be here for myself. Like this is all of the things that I have going for me. This is all of the stuff that I've gone through. And it's like it would be a waste for me to just leave.
Okay.
And that's true. I mean, you're beautiful, you have a purpose, you're loved. And when you walk into your purpose, you'll be able to be in a better space in your life where you won't have those thoughts, you know? Especially if you're going through cycles and getting in unhealthy relationships, you don't deserve it. Nobody deserves it.
Yeah.
You just have to bring awareness to yourself that you deserve the best, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like it's a cycle because once you're raised to believe something, it's really hard to get out of that mindset.
Yep,
Yeah,
it
to
is.
break it. So you're sitting there and you're with someone who's telling you all of the stuff that you grew up being told. So it's like, oh, like this is normal. Like
Right.
it's okay that I'm with this person. It's okay that they're saying all of this. And then you're like, wait, no, it's not. Like you're not allowed to talk to me like that. So why are you?
Yeah.
And I totally get it, because it's like, you know, how you're raised, it's those steps that you have in your thoughts. Like if the foundation is broken, you know, if someone else treating you like that outside of your home, it's kind of like a mental break where it's like, oh, well, it's okay because I was talked bad like this before, but it's not okay. It's where you have to break the cycle to know your stance in regards to who you are.
Yeah,
but I know
exactly.
it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
It's a process. I'm still struggling with it, but we're getting there.
We're gonna get through it.
Good.
That's right.
Yeah. I love that. You just took the words out of my mouth. I was about to say, you know, it is a process, because I mean, we've all been there, and it's a process. You just gotta take it day by day, you know, and just make sure, like, okay, this is healthy. That's not healthy. This is I want to be in a positive environment, not in a negative environment. And I love and then my question for you is: have you do you have a mentor, or do you have a therapist that you can express your emotions now with, where you won't end up feeling like you won't be suicidal again?
I don't go to therapy at all. I struggled really hard with that because it's just me telling a stranger my whole life story, and it's like it makes me feel like a narcissist just sitting there talking about myself and all my problems. When I have issues, or if I'm feeling a certain way, or if I'm thinking about relapsing, or if I did relapse, like me and my mom, we made like this promise where I'll call her, or I'll call a hotline and talk to them until I'm out of that thought process. I think the biggest thing is my mom. She is one of the biggest like support systems I've had, especially since my last attempt. And she kind of taught me that communicating is good. Communicating is important. I can't be dating douchebags who make me feel like crap.
I agree with Mama.
Exactly. Drinking isn't good. Smoking isn't good. Like, I need to get myself out of that mindset before I choose to like have fun, because it's a really big codependence on certain things that you think will make you feel better but actually don't. Yeah, so she's helped a lot.
That's really good. And I'm glad that you and your mom have a good relationship where you're able to communicate with her now and, you know, not lie, because it's easier to lie so that people don't ask you more questions rather than opening up. So I'm happy that you and your mom are able to have a better relationship. We did have a comment from one of our viewers. It says, "Thank you so much for sharing your story. You're so brave and strong." And She also asked a question: have you searched for trauma therapists?
I haven't. I've talked to my mom a couple times about going back to therapy, and trying again, just because I know that it has a really positive benefit on other people, and I've seen it like work in the past. It's just actually taking the step to go forward and do it.
Okay. I like that. Let's see here. How has things been for you during the pandemic? Because we spoke about, isolation is not always good, but how did you go through things when we weren't able to be with other people?
COVID was really hard for me just because I felt like I was losing my mind. I feel like a lot of people felt the same way when it came to that kind of stuff. It was really hard, especially like leaving school, and not being able to hang out with friends and being around like the people who made life worth living for, in a sense.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just me, like I've seen a lot of other people struggle with it, and I've lost a couple people even during COVID because of how hard things are.
Wow.
Like you feel so alone and so isolated because you are, but like emotionally you're not alone. You have people, you just don't feel like you do because you're by yourself.
Right.
Yeah. And I think like you said, like the pandemic has, like, from what I've known, suicide has been one of the biggest things since the pandemic, where a lot of many have lost their lives. And I did a little bit of research on that, and I was just like, I couldn't believe it. Because, I mean, I get it. I mean, I was depressed myself because I'm like, we're stuck in the house and we're like, okay, like, what do we do next? Like, you're so used to being up and about and doing so much, and then all of a sudden you're in the house and don't have no idea what to do with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's hard because it's like, well, what am I doing here? Like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Like, I just have to sit here and stare at a computer for 8 hours a day and feel better about it. Like, I can't, it's draining.
You're stuck. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And in my state, I'm like, I can't go to Walmart anymore. I've been at Walmart every day. I'm so sick of going to Walmart.
Literally, that's me. I completely understand that. For me, it's Target.
Yeah. that was my escape route. Walmart. Seriously.
Walmart. Yeah. I love that.
Is there any, if you could, well, let me ask you this, because you said a lot of people has actually lost family and friends during the pandemic. Have you ever experienced losing anyone through suicide?
Yeah, actually. So, and it wasn't just in the pandemic. I lost one of my really good friends my sophomore year in high school. I used to sit next to her, and we had like 6 out of 7 classes together, and we just so happened to sit next to each other in every single class. She was just struggling really hard in her relationship, and nobody really knew what was going on. So that was really hard for me. And then junior year in high school, I lost one of my best friends from middle school, actually. And we both bonded over like the depression and all of that. She's actually the one who got me into smoking, which bad habit. But we were really good friends, and she was one of the first people that I opened up to about being suicidal and being depressed and all of that stuff. So we kind of were a good like support system emotionally to each other. And it still bothers me because the last conversation we had was an argument. So it's like, I feel like I wasn't able to communicate with her and tell her how I felt and like show her how much I appreciated her for getting me through the times that she did, whether or not it was through a bad outlet. So that was really hard for me. And then sophomore year, I lost a couple more people who were, same thing. I grew up with them. And we were all pretty close, and we all went through similar situations, and we bonded over it, and we all tried to help each other get through it. So
did they, since you guys bonded on that level, was there ever a moment where they spoke about it, like, today is my day, I can't do it anymore, or it was just like no one knew and it kind of just happened?
Yeah, I feel like there were days where I knew that they were bad, but they were also days where we all tried to get them through it and all tried to make them feel better about it. Like, that's just how it was with that group. We all knew what it was like to have a bad day, especially after going through what we've gone through. So it wasn't necessarily like a surprise when it happened. It was more like you felt like you didn't do enough or say enough to get them to stay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I can imagine that you felt that burden on you.
Yeah.
You felt like you could have just done something or changed something about it.
Yeah. And I cried to my mom about a couple of them, and I was just like, it's not fair. Like, they're being selfish. Like, why didn't they think about everything that they were leaving behind? Like, their pain isn't, and this is something my mom said to me right out of West Hills. It was, your pain doesn't go away. It just goes to the people around you. So I said that to my mom. I was like, their pain isn't gone. It's just spreading to other people who care about them. Like, why can't they see how hurt everyone is? And it's like, my mom was like, look at what you're saying. Like, do you not realize, like, you did the same thing? Like, you don't think about it.
Wow.
You numb everything out. You blur everything out. You don't think about who cares about you. You don't think about all the good moments in your life or the good people in your life or your support systems.
That's true.
So she just basically made you realize that yourself. Like, hey, you're saying this to your mom, but she's like, well, you're doing it too. Like, what you're doing is also hurting us. So in a way, she's telling you, like, hey, that's selfish of you as well. So
Yeah.
that's really cool of your mom.
She's very good at calling me out on my shit.
Called you out.
Good.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
She's great. She's great.
But I agree. Like, when that's with any situation. When we're going through something, we never think about the good things. We're always just focused on the situation itself or the emotions that you're going through. And that's great that your mom is able to pull out the good things surrounding you, or just bring a different perspective of life, and I'm sure that helps you, and you can be able to, help others when you go to your peer groups and things like that as well. Yeah. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
And that is awesome. And I can agree with that. Your mommy's the bomb.
She's great. She's great. I love her. I love her a lot.
If there is anything that you can assist or help someone that was in your shoes, what would you like to share?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing is just be aware of your good moments. Me and my mom, when I was struggling really, really hard, it was even just a few months ago, we did gratitudes, where you write down 3 things that you're grateful for every day, and that really helps a lot. Understanding other people's perspectives and keeping an open mind instead of getting that tunnel vision. And I know it's easier said than done, but you have to really try to get yourself out of it and want to get yourself out of it in order to do it. And just think about all the positives that you have in your life, all the things that you have going for you, all the things that you've gone through. The biggest thing for me was how many possible people who could use the help. I'm a people person. I love helping people. I love doing my part on certain things. And so it's like, how many people out there are never going to be able to hear your story because you're gone? Like, how many people could have possibly learned from you and gotten better because of you?
That's true. That's true. So now I'm going to challenge you, since your mom challenged you. What is, I'm not going to ask 3, but what are 2 things that you're grateful for?
Okay.
You can't say mom, because mom is like already at top.
I can't. Yeah, she's already top tier, like, game over. I'm really thankful for my family and like the relationship that I've been able to build with them aftermath wise, and how they're continuously supporting me and making sure I feel loved and making sure that I have that positive environment to be in. And I am very appreciative of the people that I'm choosing to surround myself with now, just because they give me a different outlook on life, and I feel like more and more every day they make me feel better about being alive.
I like that.
I love
Good
that.
answers.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Kezia, I don't want to.
Kezia, yeah, you're good.
Kezia.
Yeah, you call me Kez, that's fine.
I am so proud of you for being the voice, not only for yourself, but for others that don't have a voice or don't know how to express themselves or don't know how to even speak for themselves at all. Because I know being depressed and mental health is a very big thing among people. Nobody likes to talk about it, but it needs to be talked about because this is something that's very serious. There so many people take their lives, and so many people take their life but don't complete it, and then there's consequences behind it. So, and then you suffer, the family suffers, and everyone's just in pain. So I'm thankful that you're came into our platform to speak on you surviving your own suicide and being able to be a voice to everyone. And thank you again. And we have one question we ask all our guest speakers. What makes you uncommon?
See, honestly, I've been thinking about this whole podcast. I'm trying to figure out what I would say to that. I don't know. I think it's mostly like my outlook now and like the experience that I've gone through. And I don't necessarily think I'm uncommon. I think a lot of people go through the same things. I just have a voice, and I have the confidence now to speak my truth and be able to share that to help other people. If that makes sense. I don't know.
It's your story. You got this, girl. So
Yeah,
your
it
voice
does
is
make
what
sense.
makes you uncommon, and that's going to help you walk into your purpose to be able to help others that don't know how to express themselves or share that they have a mental illness, or they're just going through something that's depressing. So your voice is what's going to make a difference. And thank you for being vulnerable. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
And thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone.
Before we close, we do have another comment. I'm sorry, just going through the comments. We have one from Brooke. She says, Kez, you're doing absolutely amazing. You've grown so much over the past year.
So I actually went to school with her. She's one of my best friends. She's part of my support system. She's helped me a lot in the last year, especially just getting through like mental and making sure like helping me feel loved and helping me feel like someone wants to be around me and someone wants to spend time with me. She's great. I love Brooke.
Shout out to Brooke.
Yes.
You gotta have those bonds with those friends that got your back fully.
Exactly.
I agree.
So,
sorry, Jenny, I cut you off. I just wanted to make sure we got all the comments.
Thank you for tuning in, everyone, this evening, and thank you. I'm gonna call you Kay, for coming on again and speaking on your story. And I want to speak on our clothing. You have to check out our apparel. You have to go to www.uncommonwomen.net, as well as starting this year of season 5 of 2022. I will be doing awarenesses for this year. I am currently looking for people to come on our platform to speak on anything. If you have a story, or if you know someone that has a story, you can reach out to me at uncommon3women@gmail.com, as well as I need guest speakers for the month of May. For the month of May, the awarenesses I am looking for is lupus and mental health, as well as for June for blindness and brain awareness, July for cleft and sarcoma awareness. So again, if you or anyone has a story and wants to come on, and you can reach out to me on the email that I just mentioned. Next month, March 1st, I will be having someone coming on and be coming on to speak on bleeding disorder. And again, I will be on IG speaking on these awarenesses, if I did not mention that in the beginning. And next week, we'll be Facebook Live again, and we have someone that will be coming on to speak about the sexual abuse. So make sure you tune in Thursday at 8 p.m. and stay uncommon. Bye.